In the foothills of North Carolina, there is an old house that sits on an old dirt road called Sleepy Drive. There is an old man that lives inside who doesn't say a word to anyone. He doesn't go to town. He just lives alone and doesn't bother a soul. One day the old man was working in his garden in front of his home. He saw a young boy riding down the dirt road on his bicycle without a care in the world. All of a sudden, the little boy's bicycle chain broke. The little boy was upset about this, so the old man came down from his house and walked up to the boy and patted him on his head, fixed the bicycle chain temporarily so he could get home. That night when the little boy got home, he sat down to dinner with his family and realized he forgot to say thank you to the old man. He then grabbed a container and cut up slices of pie, put them in a container, and went to the old man's house again to thank him. When the boy got to his house, he knocked on his door but no one answered. He left the container sitting on the porch railing with a note saying thank you for yesterday. As the little boy laughed, he figured he had time to kill and decided to go down to the lake and skip some rocks. The young man was having a good time at the lake skipping rocks and catching tadpoles when all of a sudden school bullies happened to show up at the lake. He was trying to hide and get away as soon as he could, but before he left, the bullies saw him and they ambushed him. They taunted him and teased him and told him to take off all of his clothes. When he did, they grabbed his clothes and tossed him in the lake. Then they forced him to walk home with nothing but his underwear, and they rode away on his bike as well. Cold and frightened, also covered in bruises, the little boy walked down Sleepy Drive, past the old man's house. The old man saw him, came down to him and took off his jacket and put it over the little boy. He also gave his pie container back. He told the little boy thank you, the only words he ever spoke to anyone. Ever. As the weekend ended, the little boy went to school and he noticed one of the bullies was absent that day. He also noticed with each passing day that each bully was disappearing and no one knew why. Until one day, one of the boys was found dead, mangled in disturbing manners. All of them were. One bully was found tied to a tree, stripped down to nothing but his underwear. The second one was found dead with a bicycle chain wrapped around his throat, strangled to death. Then the third and last bully was found on the side of the road with what appeared to be tire tracks across his stomach. That was front page news in town. When the little boy saw this, it clicked in his head it must have been the old man who'd done all this. So the little boy went to the old man's house after school to confront him about it. But when he got to Sleepy Drive, he noticed something off about the house. It was darker than it was before, and where the garden was laid, there was nothing but weeds. When he got to the front door, he found a note that was addressed to him. It was signed by, you guessed it, the old man. It said, thank you for your act of kindness, something that I haven't seen in a very long time, and that act of kindness deserved a kindness that only I can give you. Just remember one thing, young man. When they say an eye for an eye, they mean an eye for an eye. The little boy was shocked that the old man left. If there was an old man to begin with, maybe he just imagined the whole thing. So he went home and got into bed and never spoke to anyone about the old man or the old house that's at the end of Sleepy Drive.